tools? How fast are they? How flexible can we change our content and make new planets if we like to?
Sure. Well, why don't you share your screen and we'll get going.
All right, cool. Screen 1. Get rid of you, Jared. Bye.
Bye.
All right, cool. All right. So what we have here is basically Daymar. But for all the people who know what Daymar looks like, this is not really like the Daymar that people can play and go to right now, since I've already changed the data that's basically driving how all this texture information looks like. And we will go through all of that and explain what it is all about and how we modify these things and how it's constructed. So hopefully by the end of the hour, people will have a much better understanding and idea of how we approach this on V4.
Mm-hmm.
First, let's check out the color information of this planet. All right. So we're just looking at color. This is the only thing that's really interesting to us right now. And so what is different from V3 to V4? One of the big changes is the way our entire content is put together. So what I mean by that is the color that you see from orbit, the color that you see close up, and then where are all our objects scattering groups and how are they laid out, and then what about the ground materials and such, and how are they distributed. So all these different layers of content and how they are all constructed and put together has changed. I think that's the most drastic change when it comes from V3 to V4, but it is also the reason why the process is so much faster. Because before, all of these different things were basically individual files, and everything was basically quite disconnected from one another. But now with V4, the new approach is that we have base data that basically two sets of data that we will also discuss in a bit, that everything is based on. So we take a very simple texture basically and have it drive everything that you see on the planet, except for stuff like locations and objects and belonging to the nature of the planet, the organic part of the planet, since they're all man-made. Right? Exactly. So if I jump back to the planet view here, and let's maybe first check out the painting tools. So I can select our painting tool here, and the mode is set to surface, and you can already see like a little highlight on the planet. And that highlight basically tells me where I can apply color to. If I just now choose, for example, white,
share space with other travelers. Remember, we're all taking this journey.
Increase the brush radius. You can just click into the planet once, and you see that the color is applied.
Yeah, let's determine
Trap now approaching
the area that you're affecting. And obviously, you're moving the mouse, and it's selecting different areas. You can see what areas you're selecting.
Trap now approaching.
How is it determining?
Exactly. So the thing I just talked about, which is
Trap now leaving the
very
station.
simple texture,
Stand clear of the doors.
that drives everything, is basically what is being highlighted here. And
Trap
it's
now
different
leaving the
portions of
station.
the texture.
Stand clear of the doors.
We can take a look at it right now if we want to. So
All major commercial areas.
before I do that, I can basically just go through and stroke in here one more time, so you can see that changes can be done quite easily and very fast. But it's good to take a look at the texture now. So now we're in a tool called Substance Designer, where we generate most of our content when it comes to ground materials, textures, and so on. It is entirely procedural, so you see like there are these large chains of operations going on, starting from noises, and then we start modifying them and stuff like that, without going into too much detail here. But at some point, when we start with a simple noise like this one, which is a Perlin noise, we go all the way to the right, where it basically shows the end result, because the entire graph is calculated from left to right, right? So this part here is the result of it. So we end up at something like this, or at something like this, right? And so what are we looking at here? I have talked about one texture, but we're clearly seeing two things. And what are these two? If I visualize it like this,
Now arriving.
so basically I just took that grayscale information from here and applied a little color to it to make it a little more obvious what this is all about. What we're looking at is the temperature information of our planet. And to further visualize that, I can actually
Tram now leaving the
have a
station.
view on my
Stand
sphere
clear.
here. So let's say this is our planet. I'm trying to squeeze the windows that I usually have on two screens onto one screen. All right, but as you can see here, the texture, if I chose the grayscale version of it, right, you can see that the dark values of the texture are at the top and bottom of the sphere, which is basically our north and south pole. And around the equator, also if I view this texture here, you can see that here, the top and the equator here, this correlates, right? Because it's mapped on the sphere right now. So around the equator we have the brightest values, which means the temperature there is greater than it is around the north and south pole. Right? So we have kind of a representation of what the temperature is like on our planet, and also these deformations and such, because you don't want it to be simple. There are all kinds of things going on a planet, like mountains and oceans, and all of these things can influence how the temperature can behave on a planet. For example, if you go up a mountain, right, you would expect the temperature to drop gradually as you're moving upwards. So that was the top one, right? Simple temperature. Let's look at the bottom one, which is our humidity. The humidity and the temperature are basically combined in the end and saved out as one texture. But that one texture basically combines the data set, these two textures, so the information of our temperature and humidity. So I can also visualize that on our sphere here. And you can see that the humidity isn't simply a gradient going from the North Pole to the equator, and then it has a lot more breakup to it. There's a lot more variation going on. The humidity is also usually influenced by things like the ocean and mountains and such. We could also, basically these textures are completely artist driven. Like we can create whatever we like. If I decided to,
Your
let's
ship has
say,
been delivered to the following landing pad.
I decided to swirl up that texture, that would actually be my humidity. So I'm entirely free
and welcome
to
to
do that.
Riker
Nothing
Memorial
stops me from doing
Spaceport.
that. Except for
Servicing
maybe
the
our
greater
aunt
Area 18
would
metropolitan
really
area.
dislike me for doing
We
that.
hope you have safe travels
So
wherever
yeah,
your
but
final destination
we
may
can
be.
do anything, right? So that there's no limits, but we try to at least have it be based on some physical phenomena, like some phenomenon in weather and how mountains influence these two, and as I already said, oceans and maybe wind currents. And all of that stuff. So we try to work in as much of that information into these two. And the more precise it is, the better. But also we have to kind of
Your ship has been delivered to the following landing
watch
pad.
out and look for specific shapes that are in there. Because if we go back to the editor and pick our painting tool again, these shapes are precisely what the painting tool will start picking up on.
Hello. And welcome
So
to
if
Riker Memorial
if there was
Spaceport.
no
Servicing the
variety in
greater
this
Area
texture,
18
I couldn't
metropolitan
get these
area.
interesting
We
shapes
hope you
that
have
you
safe
see
travels wherever your
on the
final
planet
destination
or
may be.
moon right here. So this texture gets combined and exported, and then it looks a little funky. It looks like this. So, but that doesn't really matter. In the end, it's really the individual channels that the texture is made of that matter to us. So why can I paint on the planet like this? How are the textures combined, and how can I paint on them? So you see that the highlight is around the equator now, and it's because around the equator I have a specific humidity value, which is different from another spot on the planet. Let's say, that is actually a good one. We have this brighter area and this darker area here, right? And I can totally, if I hover above it, I can clearly see that my highlight changes. That means that the data underneath is changing as well from this spot to that spot. Because if it was the same data, this would all be white or dark, or bright sand or dark sand. And I can further visualize that by simply picking the planet and then showing you here is the humidity. So for example here, where we get brighter values, it's very humid, and then here in the darker areas it's very dry. If I had to compare that to, let's say, Earth, where you have the same temperature, let's look at the temperature again, because you can totally see that we have mostly brighter values here in the temperature, which means there's a very similar temperature in this region, but still I get a different look because the humidity differs. So let's say it is hot and dry. You would probably expect a desert, right? But if it was hot and very humid, you would probably expect a jungle that's very lush and it would be super high if you entered the jungle. So this is how we can control and have variety, even though we are in the same region when it comes to the temperature, right? If I hover just around the equator, you can see how that highlight never reaches the pole, because at the pole we have a different temperature, and therefore I can paint this area individually from this area, right?
Because it's taking a measurement between the temperature and the humidity.
Exactly, because both data sets of temperature and humidity are working together at all times. They are all basically blended together. They work at the same time.
Thank you.
Both at the same time on paint.
What's that gradient square?
That gradient square, if I find it on the planet here,
Right on there.
it is basically just the same data that is spread over the entire planet. If I just turn on humidity again, it's basically just the entire data range from the dark values to the bright values, from 0 to 255. It's basically just condensed into a square. That's purely an artist kind of workflow that we came up with in order to, depending on what we do, save ourselves some time at work. Because if, let's say, I paint on this square, you can see that the entire planet changes as well. So if I want to save some time and to be quicker in my workflow, I can simply start filling out this entire range here in this square, because it correlates to my entire planet. So we can try that out, right? I still have my white color selected, and I'm gonna tint this top left corner of the square. And now let's take a look at the temperature. Okay, the temperature in the top left corner seems to be cold, right? And now if I look at the humidity, it is in that case cold as well. So we have or low, so it's not very humid and it's very cold. How does what area on my planet describes very cold and dry areas? If we take a look, you can see that the area that describes these two are actually the poles. If we check the North Pole and we check the South Pole, there's even some more areas out here outside that also share this data, so they automatically get that colored line. I could do the same for, let's say, very hot and dry places. So we would go down because it's hot, and then dry would be dry would also be here, right?
Yeah.
So you can already see that the highlight is showing the exact same spot that we're viewing here, right? So it doesn't matter if I hover my mouse over here or actually on this square, because it's showing me the exact same data spot. So in the end, I can just go in and start painting on this square, do very, very little areas of modification, very condensed, just this little spot, but actually I'm influencing large portions of the entire planet and changing them right away. That square, it doesn't have to be, it's really just an art workflow to speed things up. We can, for example, go in here and define a couple biomes. Okay, we have the snowy areas in here, or maybe we have scorched, whatever, volcanic areas over here, right? I'm just visualizing right now with two colors. And then that's how we basically block in the individual areas we want as biomes. Okay, because it's the hottest and driest here and the coldest and driest here, so that kind of makes sense. If you know a little bit about weather conditions and temperature zones and biome distribution when it comes to planet Earth, you know that around here somewhere in between the equator and the North Pole, that would be our temperate zone. So that's where most of Europe lies. That's where you have the broadleaf and needle like pine tree forests and such, right? So I could already go in and kind of block that out and be like, okay, this is where I want these areas to be, right? And then maybe we're moving further up to a tundra kind of environment, so I can start visualizing that. Of course, this is not final quality at all, but we would first determine where do I want these individual areas to be on the planet, and how do I want them to sit and use the data that is provided to me with the textures that I have actually built myself, right? So the painting pass and these two textures, they go together. One determines how the other thing looks or can behave. Of course, I can use the same data and do different kinds of paint passes, right? So technically, and we do that on some of the moons, but the players never notice, because we can give them the same data, but give them an entirely different paint pass, so they look different and unrecognizable. It's unrecognizable that they are actually using the same data. So, for example, I can just go in here and be like, okay, around my poles, I want a region where it's just ice or something like that, right? And it transitions over all the way to my pine needle forests, and then there come the broadleaf forests or something like that, right? So we can decide quite easily and quite swiftly where things go. Far so good? Any questions, Jared?
No, I just you asked me, those who know weather and stuff, and I realized I've lived in Southern California my whole life. I don't know anything about weather. All right, so
that's all good.
So your color coding sections here.
Yep.
How does that translate into what players see? Because obviously they don't see this. It looks like Microsoft Paint color over the movie.
Yeah, right now it does, because I'm basically just blocking in huge areas with different colors, right? But if I just reduce my brush radius, right? And then once I'm once I'm happy with the entire layout of what I'm putting down here, I can then do like a second detail pass of where things might go, right? So I'm again picking the snow or white again, and I'm basically going in and working on transitions or how the snow kind of blends in with all the other areas, right? So simply just by clicking, I can determine where these things should go. And then if we go down,
Whoa,
I can even go down to a ground level where, oh, this is dark now. Let me go to a spot where it's actually bright. So I can go down to ground level. Maybe let's show it here. Yeah, go to all the way down to a ground level and then basically paint in quite detailed areas of snow where it sits and how it blends into the entire rest, right? As simple as that. So that's actually, we start off like that, but everything that the players see on the planets right now and the entire color information is actually painted down like this by an artist. It's just that if I went back to that spot again, you know, and I wanted to start doing my detail passes, I can, for example, increase the smoothness here and then reduce the opacity of the brush, kind of like you would know it from any other painting tool, right? And then I can start detailing these areas out, or take like a contrast again and add a bit more detail, and then you can kind of see how it picks up on a lot of the information that is just that comes with the terrain, and I'm basically filling that information with color, and that's basically how artists go in and work through the entire planet, or that simple square that I have shown you, and until they get something like this, right? So someone actually went in and applied these darker areas of sand and brighter areas of sand. But the important thing to note here is that even if, you know, I'm looking at this specific pit, and this is a very, like, some artists have to wrap their head around this before actually starting to construct planets, because painting this area doesn't mean that I'm just painting this area. So if I would just zoom out now, you can kind of see that I'm actually affecting a huge portion of the planet. Just by painting that one pit, I would change the entire area that's blue right now. Any small minute modification that I do to the planet is represented everywhere else where at this spot the humidity and temperature data is the same. So if I now enable temperature again, this is not very visible, but there are, maybe it is visible on stream, there's like very subtle grayscale differences here. Do you see that, Joe?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Now let's look at the humidity again. Oh, but the humidity is a bit more, right? So you can see that the pit here has different humidity values than those protrusions, or these hills here, right? So every single height information that we have on the planet that's basically covering the surface, let's say the mountains and such, these hills or these mountains here, they are all coming with the same set of data as the planet does, and then we blend them together in that way, which is super different from how V3 worked. Let me demonstrate. So, but people probably already noticed by playing that I can simply go in and let's pick some crazy color like this one. Let's find a good spot, like maybe Yeah. Like this, right? And now if I
이게
zoom
뭐야?
out,
일자리밖에 없잖아. 완전 실망인데.
all the way from ground to orbit, you can still see it, it's still represents a pixel on your screen, right? It's still there. And the cool thing about it is there's no blending happening between a planet texture and a close-up ground texture, which is fantastic, because that way we could provide for details, not just looking as if they would represent what's close up, but they are actually what is there close up as well. There's no blending happening in between this view and an orbit view. It's the exact same data we're looking at. There's no change happening when I fly out of the planet like this, which was fantastic.
I really like the overheating. You touched on a little bit of elevation earlier. A lot of folks in chat are asking how elevation factors into any of this.
So elevation is not factored in by default, but when I construct these two textures, like the temperature and humidity, right? Do you see these smaller, darker bits here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this live stream, I actually wanted to focus on these two alone, but we can also take a look at the height information of that planet, right? So now you have another representation as a texture where the mountains are, or where there's an increase in elevation, and where it's actually decreased, or like these darker values are lower, the brighter values are higher, right? So what I could do is simply take that information, give it a bit more contrast like this, so I can actually work with it fully, and now take the temperature and then tell this height information to be subtracted from my temperature. Maybe let's do it like this. All right, like this. I could do that, and then the elevation of the planet would be factored into the temperature of the planet, simply by me putting in that information from the height data that I get into the temperature data. And now, since I took the mountains and in the temperature, I said, wherever mountains are, give me a darker value, and a darker value means lower temperature. So whenever you walk up a huge, higher altitude on the planet, you would suddenly start transitioning from these brighter values here over to the darker values until it gets really cold. And then, FX picks up on that, and the wind picks up on that, and the color information changes, and the object presets that we apply change as well.
You just systemically change the temperature by just mixing two different textures.
Yes, because these two textures, this one describes elevation, this one describes temperature, and if I mix them together using certain math, in that case it's simply subtracting that texture from that texture, I get exactly what these people in the chat asked for, which is the height factored into the temperature of the planet, which is cool. So yeah, any other questions? Or should I?
Sorry, I was watching the demo.
It's mesmerizing, right?
Folks are asking what happened to the mountains on Hurston.
Mountains on Hurston. Oh yeah. So these painting tools are not the only thing we have changed with V4, and the fact that we are now applying our content very differently to the planets, we had to adjust and align the content that we use on our planets, which means the mountains, the height data, and stuff like that. It had to all be changed in order to work fine with V4, and that's why you might see different mountains, or maybe the elevation changed, or maybe the look changed, or something like that. I mean, it was a planet reworked after all. We actually went through all the planets and reworked all of them, and like including the moons, right? I'm also whenever we talk internally of planets, we usually also mean the moons by it.
Yeah. I've had to learn that the hard way, that internally you guys just refer to everything as planets.
Yeah, because it's planets. We just say planet to everything. You know it's wrong.
When you're painting right now, this is with the height map included. Because I've noticed that the way it's selecting is drastically different than it was selecting before.
Actually, it's not. It's the same thing. I'm sorry.
No, it seems to be way more variations now.
Because whenever I change, so I can increase the brush radius. Yeah. So if I change the brush radius, I can cover huge areas at once, right? If I want snow to be there everywhere, and then leave these areas as just very barren deserts, but still super cold, then I could do that. But if I reduce my brush radius, you can still see the highlight, right? But it's much thinner now. So now I can go and really detail out these places, and that's what we do towards the end of the process. Because as you know, I mean, you have probably seen enough art processes there to know that we usually go from big to small, from rough to super detailed, and that's just how all artists on the entire planet work. Because if anything that we do in regards to big changes, if we're not happy with them, then any type of detail we put into them will not work either, right? So as the base has to be established first before we dive into any type of detail and start tweaking that.
Yeah, you always start big, whittle down small. It's like sculpture. Or actually even applies to acting. I did theater for
가격이 9만.
They'll always tell you, start big and let me bring you down, because it's a lot easier to whittle something down than it is to try to build it back up.
For sure.
Quantum travel complete.
Should we do like an experiment, which would be very interesting to see? So
as long as it doesn't end with something in somebody's crotch.
Yeah, I was afraid of that. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But let's, as we did before,
Josh Herman, are you here?
Huh?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Long-time viewers will know.
All right.
Quantum travel complete.
All right. As we did before, I'm just going to apply a couple different greens here, where like temperate regions would be. Maybe like a darker green, just to vary it up a little, like this. All right. Passages up.
Quantum travel initiated.
Okay. This, and then for these areas over here, maybe we will also take something darker and just apply a couple details, just to have something.
Quantum travel complete.
Showing, I don't know, maybe exposed rocks or cliffs or areas, whatever. Could be volcanic regions. And burnt forest, actually, right? We do that as well. And then we leave a little bit of desert, and maybe a bit more of these green zones, like this. Let's say that's a bit of the planet information that we have, just for the sake of making the experiment. And now imagine that this is basically our planet, and we're quite happy with it, even though this is just blocked information. And it would be interesting to see how the entire planet changes, simply based on changes that we do to these two textures.
이 자리밖에 안 나와.
I will move this
바로 여기 아니야?
away so we can kind of look at these. So let's first look at the temperature. What could we do to the temperature? Oh, yeah, of course. Right now it is quite Earth-like. We have a North Pole, and then it gets kind of hot around the equator, and in between we have the forests, right? But what if we simply flip the entire thing? So now I have flipped the temperature on the entire planet. We have the poles which are hot. So now I can just export that texture. Alright, and now you can see what happened. So just within a second, and just a simple texture tweak, I was able to completely flip the entire information that I have on the planet. And what's really cool is it is not just the color information, it is everything that we have talked about a couple minutes ago. So the ground materials, the object presets and such, everything has been arranged automatically using the new data. So even if we are, in fact, entirely done with the planet, we have distributed all these rocks and these plates, and then we decided what ground materials go and where, and painted all of these out. And we did our detail passes, and we gave our biomes and stuff anyway, right? So even if we have put in all of that stuff already, and we want to change something about the planet, then we can just do it as quickly as I've just shown. Just plug in the node, do the modification that you want to do, re-export that texture, and you're good. For the fun of it, let's change. Let's say, maybe something directional instead. Something like this, right? But we will use it as a humidity. So if I view it on the sphere, you can see what happens on the sphere, right? I will simply overwrite the humidity of our planet now entirely and export that. Bam. By one single texture change, I have heavily influenced the look of the entire planet. If I don't like it, I'm like, oh, it's a little weird that it, my North Pole is around the equator. No problem, I'll just go in and revert the change that I have done, re-export the texture, done. This is how quick we can make changes. And we don't have to worry about any of the content that is applied to the planet. Shall we try?
Yeah.
Maybe we will have to reload the planet. This is where it can crash. So let's hope that doesn't happen. We will wait for like 10 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm live.
Yeah, all good. And we didn't crash. Fantastic. Using the build sounds wild. As we know, we're developing the game, we're also developing the tech at the same time, which can be sometimes quite crashy for us because with the engineers, build new things, new tech. It can be buggy at first, and then we simply have to live with the fact that sometimes our builds might crash. So let's do a forest, you said, right? Yeah. Okay, let's do the forest in where should we do the forest? Let's maybe paint down some specific color for it. Like this is the color. Okay. If I come close, you will start seeing the forest appear, and it's dark, but it's no problem because I have the power of the sun. Okay, cool. So right now there's actually the savanna from Hearst,
So
which we have applied onto this brown spot that we have just painted.
So literally, you just went, pick the color brown.
Yep.
You set a brush size. You selected
Let's
an
do it,
area.
let's do it again.
You,
Let's do it again.
selected an area based on temperature and humidity, and then said, "I want this to be forest,"
Yep.
and it just planted all these trees.
Yeah. Let's do this again. But close up this time so you can actually see what's happening. So I'm basically just applying a white color here, and then I'm swapping over to, let's say, Obsidian Set A from Microtech, and I just changed that. I said I want snow, and I want dark rocks on that snow, and that's my new biome. This is how quickly we can change things with V4. This is just one flat color right now. I could go in and really detail this out and give it different shades. But I don't want to say gray now, but I have to say gray. Yeah. Please. Let's do this. I'm gonna get fired for this.
Yeah, that wasn't my idea. It was from the chat.
Oh. Alright. Let's do yellow snow, but it's a lot of let's say elephant. Yeah, that just works. Yeah, we can totally do these changes and detail these areas out even more. So if I wanted to enhance this area and let's say do cacti, and I want it on the transition between this savanna land and the dark shrubs, I can totally have cacti in between, and it will first go from the savanna areas over to the cacti, and now the grass is spawning on the snow, which looks odd, right? But just for demonstration purposes.
No, we've got high desert here, and occasionally it snows in the high desert here. So I've seen snow on cactuses before.
Oh, nice.
We have that in California.
So yeah, that's how quick we can change things. And the thing is now, I think by now people get a bit of a better idea of how fast V4 really is and how much we can do. But we said we wanted to put down some like a forest, and then now we actually put down two things. So we have these dark rocks and our savanna, right? Okay, and now let's zoom out and let's modify this so it occurs in a different area. So I'm gonna go back and really like change my textures again. Wait, temperature goes here, humidity goes here, and now I'm just updating that texture again. That didn't work for some reason. Let's do it again. Ah, now it works. Yeah, this thing needs to pop up in order for it to work. Sometimes it gets stuck. Alright, so now you can see that it changed, right? It just jumped. It just jumped a little because we changed the data. So if I go in here, you can see that this is not matching anymore. And that's exactly the reason why we have to reload the planet, because the object scattering behaves a little differently than simply applying color. So I will have to just reload that planet, and then you will see the dark rocks in these snowy areas here and the forest around them.
Landing complete.
It takes a little while.
It just takes like 10 seconds. Just
to reload a planet.
Yeah.
Just reload a planet.
Okay, now I can fly back in. And you can totally see we have, this is wait a second. Maybe here. I will explain what goes wrong here. Because we are in an area where the ocean starts to the ocean level starts to creep in, and I'll explain what happens precisely. But you can see that we have the dark rock and then the savanna right next to it. Right?
Engines online.
So
안녕하세요.
properly. So why does this? Why do we get the coral spawning in here? Like, why does that happen? Like, this is weird, right? I didn't put this down. I didn't originally, but the objects
그래픽 카드 나눠서 쓰는 건 찾았는데
read out, and what they're also driven by is what
크래시 뜨는 건 뭔지 모르겠네.
that they're solving. And we can basically turn objects on and off based on what elevation level they are on. So the reason why you're starting to see coral in this area is because
얘기를 못했어.
we are actually below ocean level.
그
We
디비전
are very
뉴욕
close
산
to the ocean
거는
level. The thing is,
내일부터
this planet
플레이
is based on,
가능한가요?
Daymar doesn't have an ocean.
Yeah.
So that's why we
뉴욕의
can
지배자
simply hover
얘기하시는
above
거죠?
ground and wonder about
예약
why coral appears.
보냈으면 3월
It's actually
1일부터
good that it
아마
happened because
선행
then I
플레이
can
될 거예요.
explain that if this was, let's say, Microtech,
그때
this is
들어가서
how we can
해봐야죠.
control that. For example,
오늘까지
on the hill, there
예약일
should be,
테니까
or on higher
아니요.
elevation, there should be
틈틈이
spruce tree,
여기
pine tree
스타시티즌
forests.
돈 벌어놓고
As you
그 다음에 이제 뉴욕 지배자 하다가 이제 3.9 나오면 이제
we can, for example, say, okay, at ocean level 0 or
네,
-1,
Quantum
we
travel
want,
complete.
and that's in meters,
이게
right?
돌아가면서 해야죠.
We want ice blocks to spawn, or shifting ice sheets on the ocean, and that way we can detail out the ocean. If the ocean wasn't frozen, we can simply turn off the frozen ocean
Quantum travel
and then
initiated.
actually see the different types of acids spawning underneath the ocean.
How hard is it to give you?
어제 딱 79,000원까지
Can
복구해놓고
activate it,
잤어요.
but then the shader has to be applied and such, and it might not look great.
지금 84,000.
Yeah, no, just adding it is no problem. I don't think that will take 10 minutes though.
Fair enough.
Then make it look good.
Takes longer than 10 minutes to make it.
Yeah, but generally it can if the shading is clear and if it's all good and if it's all set up, then that's very easy. Especially if we can reuse, for example, let's say we had like the ocean set up, then I could simply just turn it on, slap something on, and that's it. But right now I'm not sure how the ocean shading is set up in this build, because this is a 3.8 build, and that's when the frozen oceans came in. So I don't want to risk any crashes because we did changes to the ocean in this build. I don't want to try. But yeah, let's go over to this area here. Can reuse the same assets. If you have questions, shoot. It's no problem.
Quantum travel complete.
Let's go back here. Oh, this is. Let's take, for example, just for the sake of doing it. Why so many rocks?
사이에 미션을
It's that question. Yeah, that's
Quantum travel.
Did you have a pet rock when you were younger?
I love
Quantum travel
the
complete.
So the rock situation. In V3, one of our big problems was that we couldn't detail out as nicely as we could.
좀 시원해져.
And the more changes we added, the more and more we progressed with the tech. The more budget we could free up and change the software. We were able to simply sketch more stuff than before. That's why V4 it's very hard to predict
전층이부터
where and how much of the structure we want. Like it happens. But there's still some things that we need to figure out. It's a discussion point. It's something that we will definitely have meetings about, and figure out how we can tackle the problem. Because it is of course a problem for design. That art direction might want dense areas and stuff like that. So there's a conflict there. It's simply something that we will need to figure out, as all the other stuff that we have to talk
얘는
about
실드로
last
처리했습니다.
years and try to find solutions. And we definitely hear the people. We read what everyone is. We read what everyone is posting on Reddit and Spectrum and stuff like that. So we totally hear you guys, and we will definitely find some solution for it. But it's too early to tell. But we are thinking about it. That for sure.
What was the black? The black was a very dark color. The surface was burned.
A rock? You mean?
I thought the whole texture of the planet was very dark. It was almost black.
Oh yeah, I just painted it.
Yeah.
Painted it black. Yeah.
You were talking and I want to interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem. So I basically just did the same thing as we did with the snow.
Quantum
Painted
travel
some
initiated.
darker values on the map. Presets applied some darker place to it, and here we go. Like dark spots on the planet. Could be anything really. Petrified roots, let's say.
Quantum travel complete.
Here we go. Again, I'm not only changing this spot right here, right? So we are changing everything that turned dark in this area on the entire planet. So you're never just editing one area that you're looking at.
Quantum travel
That's
initiated.
something that people constantly remind themselves.
Do you have the ability to mask off a section? Like if you wanted to change everything on a planet except for one
Quantum
specific
travel
area, like
complete.
I do not want to change this area.
Contact.
In terms of painting or texture? Painting. So the painting tool will pick up whatever the data is saying. Right? If you let's say just what are
Proximity.
let's say this area right
뭐야,
here.
지들끼리
I want
터졌어.
to paint it, but I don't want this area to be painted.
이드가 있어.
Then in the tool right now, there's no option to mask that area.
근데 내 머리 있어.
It's sharing the same data, right?
지들끼리
Proximity alert.
It's the same because it's the same climate zone here. Temperature and humidity rise on the left as it is on the right. So it has to be the same color and biome and objects and ground textures and stuff like that. But
Engines destroyed. Weapons.
뭐야
find
이거?
that spot on my texture here.
아무것도
and
없는데?
basically assign two values to this region, then I have, let's say,
아,
this
나
region,
씨, 어이없네.
right? And then I can paint them uniquely, individually from one another.
서버가
I was
떴는데.
asking because I was wondering if it's possible to write your name on the planet.
이거는 먹고 가자.
Like if you had a master, you just mask out Patrick. But
아무것도 없는데 엔진 하나 날라갔네요.
remember when I asked you
날개라.
if artists sign their work?
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, is there a way for you to read your work? That's not what I
Quantum
said.
travel initiated.
반쪽이 됐어.
Okay. This is a bit crazy, but as I said, nothing prevents us from doing anything. So let's do this and swap our temperature and texture.
changes will go to Game Live, by the way.
There we go. The Jared biome. You ended up in the desert region, Jared. Sorry. Me too. Me too. Because it's too hot, you know. It's too hot.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yep. See, now we're starting to get the idea. But we can also just flip it as we did before and have the snow be in our names. Because now it's cold, right? So it all, you know, it makes perfect sense in that regard. And now all the other data, because I gave our names this gradient bevel here around the edge as an effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the temperate forests and all the other regions are basically all focusing around our names.
Quantum travel complete.
Because it's going from cold to warm in a much shorter distance. Instead of just going from North Pole to equator, we have basically forced the temperature to change in a much
Quantum
much
travel
smaller
initiated.
Yep.
I'll give you $5.
오우 씨, 안 보여.
Paint yellow snow.
Quantum travel
If you
complete.
take this and drop it in your review for Ian.
이것 때문에 그럴까?
Colors?
Sprint check.
Let's talk about that off stream, Jim. And maybe at 0. Alright. Yeah. I think we have time for like
Proximity alert. Head. Proximity
뭐야?
alert. Starboard. Weapon systems destroyed.
awesome.
We-
Great.
이 버그 또 있네.
You can go ahead and shut down the screen share.
어떤 버그요?
주변에 아무것도 없는데 터지는
So
거야.
much for taking
부딪혀.
time here on your Friday at the end of your week to join us here for our game dev painting planets.
보이지 않는
If you haven't seen the IRC
오브젝트가
segment
있는 거죠.
from last week, check that out. It was about how it was part 2 of our quarter-long moon series about the work that Patrick and Pascal have been doing to create 3 moons with only 2 people in the span of a quarter.
하루 만에
This-
똥 써버린
hopefully this
건가?
shows you a little bit about how they were able to achieve those tasks at that speed.
4 weeks. 4 weeks.
4
3
weeks. 4 weeks, 3
Yep.
moons. That's pretty good. Oh, and for people like, what about the concept? Like the concept was done before. It's from
Yeah.
concept to completion. It didn't include the concept. It was from concept to completion.
Exactly.
I said it like
We
a half dozen times
we
already.
have seen that on Reddit as well.
I was like,
And
how many times do I have to say it?
오늘 딱 9시부터
Anyway.
또
It happens.
긴급
we only
지나면
started January
때리지.
when
Yeah.
we came back from holidays. That's when we started on the moons on our end. But yeah, there was the concepting done before, as you said.
And you've made your go no go, and now it's in the hands of system designers and VFX and everything to put on the finishing touches. And,
Yeah, QA is checking it out, seeing if there's any bugs, you know, anything that we might change. Maybe art direction is going to have some feedback, but not much. And then hopefully, yeah, people will get it and
Alpha
play around with it and have fun experiencing the new moons.
And with all the new actor status stuff, they'll have to contend with the temperature variation. The temperature variation.
미션
I can
취소됐는데
but
화물이
already spoil that
남아있네.
much. The moons are very cold.
드디어
Very, very
버그가 참
I don't think
버그
they'll
창출
spoil it.
시작됐네.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. If for any reason you're at PAX East, we got Tyler and Molly are out
서버
there.
처음 열면
Now
진짜
they've got some
깨끗한데
giveaways. You
예.
can track them
이제
down on the
조금만 몇
show board.
시간만
Make sure
지나도
you spot
금방
'em.
더러워져요.
382 went live. If you haven't checked that out, be sure you check that out. The carrot's currently available.
원래
For all,
버그도 좀
for if you're
있는
an
것도
Imperator
있다.
subscriber, for instance, you've got
보통
access to
다
the carrot for the
서버에
next 7 days at no additional fee as a perk of the Imperator test flight program. So Imperator subscribers can look forward to that. That's active right now until March 8th. So yeah. So I'm Jared. That's Patrick. That was JJ over there. Push the buttons. We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.
See you, bye.
작업 못하는지 볼까?
From a night in town to that big day making deals, Cassava Outlet helps rest to impress.
이런 거 파네. 이거 레알 핑크다. 레알 핑크가 있었네.
From the most current trends to new classics, at Cassava Outlet you'll always find the latest styles at the lowest prices.
몸체를 볼까?
With so many options, there's always something waiting for you at Cassava Outlet. From your next favorite shirt to the jacket you need to have, Cassava Outlet has everything you want to wear. From a night in town to that big day making deals, Cassava Outlet helps you dress to impress with fashion for less.
살짝 느낌 있다. 화이트, 실버, 그레이.
Looking to make an impression that won't break the bank? Cassava Outlet offers outfits worth owning at prices too good to pass up.
안 돼.
Convenient connection traffic across all major commercial areas of our world. City Flight is business travel made simple. Tram now approaching. City Flight is proud to be the official transportation service provider for the Arcot Metropolitan Network. Tram now approaching. Tram now leaving the station. Stand clear of the doors.
얘 또 이거 안 되네.
Tram now leaving the station. Stand clear of the doors.
더 벌면 10만원이다.
Now arrive.
대님 FPS 좀 하시죠.
네?
FPS
좋아하죠?
좀 아니 그니까 FPS 잘 하시는지.
글쎄요. 예전에는 자신있게 얘라고 할 수 있는데 지금은 점점 실력이
저는 당당하게 못한다고 얘기할 수 있습니다. FPS 잘하시면 저거 가려고 그랬는데 벙커 미션이랑 899 미션 뜰까 싶어요.
저는 상관없어요. 대신에 이거 무기를 뭘 사야 될지 모르겠더라고요.
무기가 종류가 좀 있다 보니까
탄약이나 뭐 그런 거.
탄창 같은 경우에는 그 사는 고유 무기 이름 그거 그대로 따라서 사면 되거든요. 근데 보통 개인적으로 자본 없을 때는 거의 주워서 쓰는 게 좋죠. 그러니까 FPS 미션에서 갔을 때 AI들이 쓰는 총을 주술 수가 있거든요.
진짜요?
네. 그거 주워서 쓰는 것도 나쁘지 않아요.
Thank you for visiting ArcCorp, Stanton's capital of commerce. Whatever your transaction, we wish you a beneficial and prosperous stay.
오늘 기다려야 되나? 13분이나 기다려야 되네.
Hello, and welcome to Riker Memorial Spaceport, servicing the greater Area 18 metropolitan area. We hope you have safe travels wherever your final destination may be. Thank you for visiting ArcCorp, Stanton's capital of commerce. Whatever your transaction, we wish you a beneficial and prosperous stay.
에이, 돈 내고 시간 쪼개자. 52분 50초, 아니 52분 50초. 40초. 이제 됐나?
Hello, and welcome to Riker Memorial Spaceport, servicing the greater Area
땡.
18 metropolitan area. We hope you have safe travels wherever your final destination may be.
4번 경락구. 전 반대로 가고 있어.
Obey all security and customs personnel at all times. Their job is your safety.
아 그러고 보니까 오버클럭 플레이 있잖아. 점심 먹고 워크숍 켜서 해야지.
Aegis combat assist activated. Systems green.
You are clear to launch. Thank you, and please visit again.
무역 제대로 하면 한 30만 원 기본적으로 써야 돼.
Quantum travel initiated.
그러면 에보루스에 저장해 놓고 뭐 하세요?
아니 저 감선이랑 박는 줄 알았는데 타이밍 좋게 터져가지고
애들 처박으로 오는 건 해결하셨나요?
그거는 그대로긴 하지만 뭐 어찌어찌 피하는 방법으로
그냥 처음 접근 때부터 그냥 살짝 굴러가는 기분으로 그냥 접근하면 돼요. 야, AI가 싱크 문제도 있고요. 좀 병맛이에요, 얘들. 패스파인드 그 자체가 조금 애매하다 해야 되나? 무역 자본금을 저걸 해봤거든요. 시뮬레이터. 근데 한 10만원 있으면요.
네.
지금 10만원 다 돼가는데 한 번 무역하고 잠깐만요. 무역하면 수익이 2만원에서 25,000원 정도? 근데 이게 한 30만원 있다 그러면 수익이 한 번 갔다 오는데 65,000원이에요. 6만 얼마에서 7만원 정도. 근데 지금 캐터필러 양이 최고 크니까 캐터필러 같은 걸로 하면 한 번 갔다 오면 한 60만원 자본금 이상 있다 치고 하면 한 번 갔다 오는데 한 10만 벌죠. 그때부터는 막 부리고 다닐 수가 있겠죠? 한번 갔다가 하는데 뭐 한 10분에서 20분 걸리니까 최대. 근데 조금 궁금한 게
네.
배를 만약에 2개를 끌고 간다. 그 2개 다 그 물품을 구매할 수 있을지에 대한 게 조금 그걸 안 해봐가지고. 만약에 2개를 끌고 간다 그러면 수익이 엄청나잖아요.
그쵸?
파일럿 한 명을 하고 뭐 호위 붙여가지고 이렇게 해놓고 또 저는 또 요 배 타고 해가지고 하면 한 번 갔다 온 뒤 한 20만원 번다는 건데.
오.
잠깐만요. 어스튼 저기 내리고 점심 먹고 가야 돼. 진짜 그렇게 되면 한 5명만 데려가도 괜찮아. 5명을 끌고 데려가도 제법 돈을 페이를 줘도 시간당 한 10만 이상은 줄 수 있을 것 같은데. 10만 이상 보장.
Quantum travel complete.
만약에 5명이 아니라 한 3명 정도 데려가면 보수는 더 세질 거고. 어딨지? 여기 있다. 에버로스.
Quantum travel initiated.
에버로스 파킹 해놓고.
Please proceed to assigned landing bay.
여기 아니면 뭐야, 경락고를 주네.
Landing. Engines offline.
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
그럼 저는 점심 먹고 올게요.
네.